Can I thank the Honourable Member for Strangford for securing this debate? He is truly such a good man, and I think that is something that everyone in this place would say. And I think it speaks so much to the kind of man he is, that having received an email from someone far, far away from his aisles, although only 10 minutes from my home, that he put forward for this debate. And so I really would like to thank him on behalf of the entire House for doing so, because it goes to the heart of the kind of man that he is. I'd also like once again to welcome Helen and her husband, who are here from Stamford. And I'd like to thank them for all the work that they do with the Benedict Blythe Foundation, because not only does it work to raise awareness of the risks for children facing allergies, but also children with unique brains and approaches to learning. And I want to touch briefly on that as we start, because it matters so much that we remember the children for whom we are here fighting. Helen's son Benedict had an incredible talent for maths, something I wish I had. In fact, I often say, who do I look up to most in the world? People who can do maths. At the age of 1, he could complete a 24-piece puzzle independently. By 18 months, he was doing pie charts, and by the age of 4, he was reading books with diagrams of the central nervous system with a maths ability equivalent to that of a 10-year-old. Benedict was clearly blessed with incredible intelligence, but he also had asthma and allergies. His first allergic reactions were identified when he was just 4 months old, and I cannot imagine how scary that must have been for you at the time. But with careful planning and prevention, Benedict's parents were able to keep him safe. Growing up and going to nursery and school means that trust has to be put in those around our children. It wasn't easy, and as my honourable friend said, at just age 2, Benedict's nursery worker gave him cow's milk and caused him to immediately throw up. They only admitted that they had given him something that he was allergic to after his lips and tongue had swollen so severely that he needed urgent medical treatment. 2 years ago today, on the 1st of December 2021, Benedict woke up and went to school. There he ate a snack which caused him to collapse shortly afterwards, and he died later that day in hospital, aged just 5. That changed the lives of his family and friends forever. I want to place on record the condolences of this entire House, and I think as parents we all struggle with this, and my child is just 5, so I struggle in particular to do this. But I'm so pleased that after a year of fighting, this family finally get their debate. A year. And also that it comes on the eve, suggests to me that it's fate, and it was meant to be as a tribute to Benedict. Benedict's story is, however, not unique. And although parents do everything we can to keep our children safe, they need more support, particularly in the education system where their children spend so much of their time. Worryingly, 18% of food allergy reactions and 25% of first-time anaphylactic reactions do occur in school, and that will only rise. Between 1998 and 2018, 66 school children died from allergic reactions. And I think the point that was made about behaviour change and understanding change is really important, because when I was growing up, I don't remember discussions about allergies. I think they are on the rise, and I'm not an expert, so I won't pretend to give a medical diagnosis. But I think it's very difficult when you are in a position of authority, when you did not grow up having to worry about these, to suddenly run an institution where this has to be of fundamental importance, because as we heard, at least 2 children in every school classroom have an allergy. But what this means is that every day, thousands of children walk into schools uncertain whether they will get the support they need that could mean the difference between life and death. I have seen the impact of what it means for a young child to be nervous when they sit down with their peers at lunch, not knowing what will happen if some milk will pour onto their skin, because for some children, including one in my family, that is how severe their allergies are. The vigilance and the pressures that it puts on the shoulders of these children is significant. And that is partly why what we're talking about today is so important, because if we can lessen that stress, the vigilance that these children are living with that's put on their shoulders, we would be doing a good turn, let alone the lives that we will save. Now, we know that every educational professional goes into it because they love it and they want to support children, and nobody would want to see a child exposed to life-threatening allergens in their school. But the problem is that the current system is allowing risks to take place that I believe could be tackled. The current Department for Education guidance, as we heard, is voluntary, and that does result in vastly different standards in schools, but even between different teachers and classrooms. I think you will hear a very united list of asks today from us all, but I will go through them. First, replace the voluntary advice with mandatory regulations. That is at the basis of ending disparity. Secondly, require every school to implement and maintain an allergy policy. Thirdly, let's make it a standard part of school conversations that children have about what allergies are from the youngest age. Let's talk to our children about what it is to be a responsible classmate. Let's make it as egregious to mock a child who has an allergy as it is to be racist in your terms. When you read the allergy stories in this book, and you hear the children who talk about how they've had their allergy weaponised against them in the playground, that is something we can deal with by making it abhorrent from the moment children start. And those are the conversations they do have in their classrooms. We should require every school to work with pupils' parents or guardians to create individual risk assessments for those pupils with allergies. Every single year, the allergy that the child has and the support they receive has to be reviewed by a GP. It should be a requirement that every year that GP assessment is brought into the school and the school sits down and goes through that GP assessment with the family. Yes, it is adding additional work, but it is about saving lives. And the reality is that on an every year basis, the type of things that a child will be doing, for example, whether they start going on foreign trips or not. I remember that being a real cause of concern for the parent of the child in my family, who said, well, I don't know what will happen when he goes on a school trip. That's not the same as a school canteen where we know it's dealt with and there's a plan. We have to make sure that the yearly review happens because the circumstances and the way in which children are taught changes. We do need to keep spare adrenaline auto-injector pens available to treat emergency cases. The good news about these is that the lifeline on them is getting longer, but we also need to make sure that staff are EpiPen trained. Not necessarily every member of staff, but a significant number of them, just as they are on CPR. We also need to end the distinction by some within education to draw distinctions between minor and severe allergies. There is no such thing according to the clinicians. The factors in place on a day where a child has an allergic reaction determine whether or not the reaction is minor or severe. So we need to overcome that. And finally, we should ask all school staff and teachers to be fully trained in allergy awareness and first aid response because, as we heard, many children do not know that they have their allergies. And as part of that, in every single staff room, the poster, and this can be done, I know schools who do it, there should be a poster of a child's face with the allergy that they have and the 3-point plan of what has to be done to them if they have it, so that teachers get used to knowing them. Because on the average day in the playground, the teacher who might identify a child having an allergic reaction or in the canteen may not be their standard teacher. Taken together, as we heard, this would cost less than £5 million per year to implement, and it would mean that more children go to school in safety. For my part, I will write to every school in my constituency and ask every school to adopt the school's allergy code. And I'll ask them to come back to me and we will offer support to them however they need it to go through it. But once again, I want to thank Helen and Pete. I am so proud that it is someone from our communities in and around Stamford who is going to change lives. I am confident that Benedict's legacy will change and save lives. 13,000 people around this country felt so strong as to sign the petition. 282 in Stamford and Grantham, 81 in Rutland and Melton. Each one of those will be a member of a family who has been touched by this. Allergic reactions and deaths are avoidable, and I would urge the government to take these few simple steps. I know that there are many demands on the Education Minister's time, and some people want to raise other conditions. So, for example, asthma, that Benedict also had. But allergies are the most likely to result in death. And therefore they are far more of a priority in terms of the urgent need to support teachers so that they can feel confident, take the pressure off children and make sure that parents know their children are safe. I urge the government to take these steps, to honour Benedict By's legacy and to do what the House believes is a meaningful step that would save lives and make sure that we don't continue to see these heartbreaking reports of children dying in our schools for what could, with the right measures put in place, be as preventable as possible.